See, if I never touch a golf again, it'll be too soon. Fucking 8 cars. This week on 427 Motorsports, we're taking on our biggest task yet, I think, because of time frame. But basically, we're gonna strip down, modify, paint, and rebuild a Mk2 Golf in 3 days. So, before we get started with this big bumper edition of 427 Motorsports, if you haven't already, which statistically most of you haven't, please feel free to click the subscribe button. You can like if you want, but really we care more about subscribers, to be quite honest. It means a lot to us and it really, really helps. So if you're interested in things like shitty old Volkswagens getting full restorations, or tiny little a set of bubble cars that really should have died a long time ago, whatever that is under the cover, we got it all, and with a handful of old Mercs as well. So yeah, if you like cars of all shapes and sizes, feel free to check us out.
Nice.
Done. Did you go to the disco ball? Of course you went to the disco ball.
Well, you are anyway. Good luck.
Yeah, fair enough. Connor's here for the intro and to get some of the credit, and then he's going to clear off, so hey ho. But yes, so as you may have seen in some of our earlier videos, this is Debbie, the dirty diesel, and recently we brush painted her and made her look really fast, and then we realized this isn't fast at all.
No.
In fact, when we went to Derry to buy the 190 that you've seen in other videos, there was a Passat doing 40 miles per hour and we were on an overtaking lane and we couldn't get past them.
So sad.
Yeah, she's just not running right. She is a TDI, a 1.9 TDI, so she should be a rocket ship in theory, but due to many little electrical niggles, things just don't work properly. So now it's time to finally sort all of that out. So our journey actually begins a couple days ago whenever I had kind of diagnosed what was actually wrong with this. And the thing that I needed, to be realistic, is just an entire wiring loom, because the loom in this was a mess. I have no idea whose fault it was.
No idea at all.
Must have been some previous owner.
Yeah.
Although
Somebody else.
there hasn't been a previous owner with this vehicle that had it as a 1.9 TDI, so I get the feeling there's literally nobody else I can blame but myself. Literally. But yeah, so I've decided we just need an entire loom, which meant driving to the far side of the country to Enniskillen, and the far side of Enniskillen, so even further, to a friend of mine who runs a place called Brian's Bike Shack. I'd like to give a huge thanks to Brian for faffing about getting the loom out of a Mark III donor car, as well as labelling the loom, which makes my job 10 times easier because I'm not going to have to sit and try and work out where everything goes. And he also gave me the final component that I needed for another thing we're doing, which is... Just realised I didn't tell you before.
I don't know.
I was expecting you I was waiting for you to join in, but you don't know. I am also converting this to power steering, which means changing the entire steering rack, track rods, fitting the pump to the engine, and then obviously a belt and fluid and all the rest. So that is not an easy job. It also involves drilling into the chassis leg to fit the bracket.
Oh good, that's always a good idea.
Isn't it always a great idea? Because that definitely won't rot in about 10 years time. Needless to say, we are doing a huge undertaking in a short space of time because we don't have the garage for very long. And I don't have very long off work. In fact, the owner of the garage doesn't even know we're here right now. So I get the feeling he's going to catch on when he sees us balls deep in a Mk2 Golf. But anyway, and while we're in it, while
you're balls deep in this.
Well, while I'm I was thinking about balls deep, and that was just it. You know, I lost it. While we are balls deep in Debbie, it just makes sense to also paint the engine bay while we're at it. Now, down the line, I do think maybe I'm going to respray this baby blue, the same color that the T25 and the T4 came in. We'll put a shot of it on screen here, but right now I'm undecided. But I'm going to do the engine bay in that color, so even if I don't do the outside, you will open the bonnet and be like, wow, look at that, it's a different color. Or you'll be like, what the hell, it's a different color, it looks like shit. Who knows? So I I guess all there is to do now is to get stuck in and get started. So first of all, we're going to begin the strip down. Now, we're just going to do a time lapse of the strip down because if you want to see how to strip down a Mk2 Golf, there's literally a video on our channel describing how to do it. So you don't need to see that. But we'll just get stuck in and cue the music. Whatever music it may be, because we're recording this well in advance. So, let's go. So it's the end of the first day. I have been absolutely flat out, but sadly the engine is still in place. That's because I'm trying to do this the usual way because I really can't be arsed removing the subframe. Now you will notice in the other video when I stripped the Mk2, I took the whole lot out as one unit, which is great, but in this instance I really can't be bothered bleeding the brakes and faffing about with everything and lifting the car up so high and just really can't be bothered. So it does take longer, but it's slightly less work. So let's have a look at what I've done. Now, this engine hasn't been out since it was put in about 3 years ago, so it's taken a wee bit of time to readjust to how to remove a TDI because I haven't done it in a while. So there's a lot more wires and things to worry about and turbo hoses and all that stuff. But basically, this is what we're left with. So all that is left, tomorrow I will get this thing out of here, degrease the rest of the bay, paint the rest of it that new colour. I just did a wee test patch to see what it looks like and I really like it, so I'm very pleased with that. Eventually the whole van might be that colour, who knows, but for now I'm doing the whole engine bay in it. Engine's been all cleaned up and so on with brake cleaner and stuff, and I think I have found the source of the oil leak because the whole bulkhead and this area is covered in oil, but I'll get to that tomorrow when we get the engine out. So yeah, it's kind of just been a process of removing everything and getting it ready to lift. Everybody who was here isn't here at the minute, so I'm by myself, so I don't really want to lift that engine out by myself, just in case something goes wrong, because it is getting kind of late. So rejoin me in the morning for day 2, technically the first full day, but day 2 of the build. So it's now day 2. We've got a McDonald's breakfast in us, which should make us awake enough to do this properly. Might have been dangerous trying it last night, I think. Yeah. But we have got the rope around the engine. Connor's just getting everything ready to go. And the plan, hopefully, is to take the weight off it and then remove the engine mounts and drop the engine down to the ground. So we're not actually lifting it out, we're letting it go down because the bumper's kind of in the way in the Mk2 and you could undo it all. Haven't really decided, but the time lapse that we're about to do now, can you tell I just discovered how to do a time lapse? The time lapse we're about to do now will show you whatever way we decide to do it. So cue the music and let's go. So the engine is out and on the ground. I've given the engine bay a rough bit of paint there to kind of brighten it up a bit. So now the next step is to take the interior out because it never ends with the stripping. Next is to take the interior out and get the loom ready to be unplugged and changed for the better loom. Let's go. Again, as I mentioned at the start of the video, a huge thanks to Brian Leonard at Brian's Bike Shack for helping me out with this stuff here and for being basically the diagnosis expert and what's wrong with Debbie. Basically, she's been in limp mode for the past 3 years, and if you're not into cars, you should probably be able to guess what limp mode means. It means it's kind of trying to limp itself home, which means it's limited its speed and trying to keep itself safe. Now, having looked at the wiring loom of Debbie, it's pretty safe to say that that's likely to be a big culprit. So Brian went through the huge hassle of taking out the loom out of one of his donor cars, which seems to have been untouched. But even better, he even labelled it all so he'll know where the hell it all goes. As well as this, another problem Debbie seems to be having is a mass airflow sensor. Now, what one of them is it's a sensor that works out how much air is coming into your engine to then give it enough fuel to suit. This is then dictated, sends a bit of information to the brain, which then computes some stuff and things happen. Mine doesn't have one of these, so it's kind of been shitting itself for the past 3 years, freaking out, not knowing what's going on. So he has given me one for me to fit to this. So all being well, fitting this nice tidy new loom that hasn't been butchered should, in theory, fix all of the issues that we've been having. None of them have been seriously fatal issues, but it's been a real pain to drive because it's so slow. When you know it should be faster, it's just so slow. So hopefully, all being well, this should do the job. Now, all I have to do is basically strip the entire front end of the car inside and unplug it all, find out where it all goes to, and swap it for this one. So that's cut to yet another time lapse of just taking out the interior.
Love them time lapses.
Love that money. Oh. So yes, let's get stuck in. So it's the end of day 2. You can hear the T4 running there because that's my home for tonight, and I'm trying to get the heat going because it's actually pretty bloody cold at the minute. We've had a night of watching Miami Vice on the projector whilst working on the Golf. Now here's what we have done, and it's been quite an achievement. So the engine bay is basically all painted. It's not perfect, but there's that many things go into this that you really can't see much. Don't get too close.
Okay.
Don't get too close. But there's that many things go into here that you're really not going to notice the imperfections. It's a packed engine bay, but you know, it'll brighten it up a bit. But the important thing is this. I have got the shagged, ruined, ragged, useless old wiring loom out. Finally, and then I'm ready to put in the actually earlier but in better condition other loom. So as you can see, the inside of Debbie is incredibly bare right now because there is nothing in there. But tomorrow the plan is to fit the new loom. That might even take all day, to be quite honest.
Yeah,
that loom may take all day, because it's going to be a total pain. But if it doesn't take all day, then that's great, and I'll probably put the power steering setup in.
Okay.
And then Sunday should be finished building everything else up, put the coilovers in, hopefully that's it. Although I do plan on having a serious hangover on Sunday, because we're getting drunk tomorrow. But anyway, that is today's update. So Join us tomorrow morning as we get stuck back in. So it's now day 2, 1, 3. It's the next day. Anyway, now it's a case of tidying up the Mark II looms. Now that I have the Mark III loom out, I want to tidy up the routing of the Mark II loom, which means then the Mark III loom should slot in nicely and be easy to figure out. At the minute, it's just a mess of wires, and I just want to route it all a bit better, just to make the bay look that little bit prettier and make it easier to fix anything down the line should I need to. I have to say, it looks pretty cool, I think. So, yeah, time to get stuck in. So while it may look like there's just a huge mess of wires here, it does actually make sense once you start to break it down. So over here, I have the Mark II lighting loom still in, because this will run the headlights, indicators, and so on. And then, obviously it's thrown about the place, but this is the Mark III engine loom, which will sit over into the middle here. Here we have our ECU, because I don't have a better place to put it, but we also have the Mark II wiring loom going across, along with this, the Mark III loom. Now, on the passenger side, this is where it gets a bit messy. So on the passenger side would be the loom for the lighting in a Mark III, which in this instance is of no use to me. I'll be using it in the Veronica build, but in this instance, I don't need it. So I have the Mark II wiring loom coming through to do all the lighting on this side. That makes sense. However, this is where it gets complicated. We have the burr wires here because I've cut the tape all off. But within this Mark III wiring loom is the horn, which I may need, I'm not sure. But what I definitely need... Oh, hello, Connor.
Of course you need a fucking horn.
Of course I need... I have a Mark II horn as well. I don't know how I'm going to wire it, you cheeky dick. Right. Aye, yeah.
I'll both.
Aye. What would you know about having a horn, Mr. Dysfunction? Anyway, back on topic. So we have our horn loom in here, which I've had to separate from this mess of wires. Along with this, we have our boost solenoids. And the wires for these are also within this Mark III wiring loom. So I'm having to dissect it all out, separate what I need out from what I don't need, probably just cut off what I don't need, put some loom covering over it, and make it tidy. Whilst this may be one of the most straightforward swaps you can do in a later spec Mark II, let nobody make you think it's an easy one. Eventually, when you cut all of the, where did I put it? Once you cut all of the waste out, you are left with literally one set for the horn and one set for your boost valves. Now, here comes the shitty part. We have to force all of these wires and plugs and connectors and all the rest behind that. I'm sure you've heard the phrase square peg, round hole. Well, this is square peg, round hole, hole too small, hole in really awkward place. Square peg, really, really big and awkward. Ugh. So now we have our loom in. It's still yet to be plugged in, but it's in. We are going to look into the power steering. Now the first thing I need to do is worry about the universal joint. The universal joint is what combines your steering column, which you turn with your wheel, to your steering rack, which is what actually turns the wheels. Now they are different between a Mark II non-power steering and a Mark III with power steering. Because we're putting in a power steering rack from a Mark III, we have to change it to suit. Now the main difference is a thing called splines. Now, this isn't a great example because they both look the same here, but these little spikes, if you want to call them that, are called splines. And on the Mark II, it has much thicker splines. Now, because of the difference in splines, we have to change the universal joint from the Mark II unit to the Mark III unit. And contrary to popular belief, you can fit the Mark III one to the Mark II straight in, no problems. So what happens is, this would come through the bulkhead here. This is the bulkhead. Americans call it firewalls, we call it bulkheads, whatever. This comes through from your steering column and down into this. And then this is what turns your steering. See, I'm currently turning the steering. So all we have to do is, because we're changing this rack to the power steering rack, I had to change this universal joint. And that's all there is to it, really. So I'm gonna do that. Okay, so it's Sunday, which I think is day 3. I've lost track at this point. Sit rep. Mark III loom is in and done. Well, not done, it's not plugged in, but it's in, and that's the hard part. Plugging it in will be a piece of piss. The shitty thing, we've had to abandon the power steering setup because there's a bolt and a nut on the steering rack that just would not play ball, and even after taking a grinder to it, it's in such an awkward wee place you can't even get a full clean cut, so I've just had to abandon the idea. Hey ho, at least the maroon one will have power steering, so you know, it'll keep this one a little bit different, I guess. But anyway, so now what's left to do is to just get the engine here in. There's an oil leak on it I'm going to sort first, but we'll get the engine in, get all hooked up at the front. Then I'll probably fit the, I'll do the inner loom. I'll get it all plugged in and all together again. Then I'll fit the coilovers and we'll get it lowered. We'll get it low and running, and that's kind of the plan for today. I'd really like to get it done today, so it might be a late one. But yeah, so let's get stuck in. So one of the issues I've been having with this Golf at the moment was a constant oil leak, and having stripped it now, I can see that it actually covered the entire bay in oil, which probably was really good for rust proofing, to be fair, but it's not ideal really. And every time I parked it, it would just leave a drip of oil wherever it was. And I didn't think it was that bad of a leak if it was only a drip, but having stripped it and seen how much is actually around the bay, that tells me that drip was just what hadn't made it to the ground yet. Thankfully, however, I think I have narrowed down the cause of the problem, and thanks to having a spare TDI sitting at my house, because of course I do, I have the solution. So this is our turbo, which obviously is where the T in TDI comes from, turbo diesel intercooled. And underneath here is this. This is a feed to the turbo, or from. I'm not actually sure whether this is to or from, but that's not really important. Either way, it's an oil passage. Comes from the engine block here and into the turbo. But it's sitting in loosely here at the minute, but we were missing a bolt actually holding that feed in, which means that the oil was just pissing out of it as it was driving it. It's actually a wonder I hadn't seized it yet, but thankfully we've caught it, and it seems to be a simple solution. So we've managed to get a bolt from the other TDI at the house. So now I'm going to put some gasket sealer on. Well, I'm going to take the bolts out, put some gasket sealer on to make sure it's good and secure. Put the bolts in, tighten up, and we should have no more oil leaks. with the oil leak at the back sorted, the loom in, the steering all sorted and all, it's finally time for us to drop the engine back in, plumb it all up, and hope for the best. So let's go.
What crack?
You recording?
Yeah.
Are we gonna leave that bit in where I ask if you're recording?
Every time.
Fair enough. So here's a sit rep. The engine is now in, bolted up and secure, which is great. So I've then gone and put all the little bungs in the bulkhead, so that should reduce some of the cabin noise. Next on my list of issues is the car never got hot. And I don't mean overheating, I mean heating at all. It would never get up to temperature. So operating temperature of your average Mk2 Golf, I don't know about other cars, but most cars, it tends to be about 90 degrees. Any Coke. So yeah, average operating temperature of a Mk2 Golf is about 90 degrees. Now I have a stack gauge, which is quite an accurate way of telling what temperature actually is, because it's a more advanced sender and we're not sponsored by Stack, so I'm not gonna sit here and talk about how good their thing is either. But it was telling me this was sitting at 60 degrees. Now, running too hot is bad, yes, but also running too cold can actually have some problems as well. It can speed up head gasket failure along with many other things. So it's good to have it running at the right temperature. So I had self-diagnosed this down to not having a thermostat, which is
One of these.
yeah, but I wanted to show a nice new one because that ruins the surprise.
All right.
Which is one of these.
Yeah.
Now, a thermostat, as it implies, waits until it gets up to a certain temperature and then it squeezes in, which actually this is a lot more resistance now I think about it. I'll cut this bit out. Anyway, so this gets up to a certain temperature. Well, it lets the water get up to a certain temperature, and then it kind of contracts to let the water in past. What this then does is let the water heat up quicker, get to that temperature, and then it will send it to the engine or to the cooling system or whatever. Basically, it lets it get up to temperature quicker. However, if you don't run one of these, your water flows constantly and never really gets too hot. So I figured that this just must have had the thermostat taken out of it. However, as somebody ran the surprise of earlier, however, it turns out, I did that too quick.
How does it taste?
Tastes of misery.
Nice.
And an early grave. However, it did actually have one in, so whether the thermostat was always open, allowing the water to get through and not heat up, I'm not sure, but it's more fishy that it's open or that it has one, because that's not a clear-cut reason as to why it's not getting up to temperature. So hopefully I have a Febby Bilstein one here ready to go in. Bilstein, I knew you were going to do that. So this one will open, it says on it here, this one will open at 87 degrees. So it'll let the car build up to 87 degrees, then this will contract in, and the water will flow and so on and so forth. With it coming into the winter months here, and me daily driving this every day, and with black leather seats, I want the heat to get on quite quickly. So next, then, once I've fitted that, I'm going to install the drives. Now, this should be easier than before because we are also fitting coilovers, which means I can just remove the shocks, giving me a clear access point into the bolts on the drives. As you can see here, this is the shock. The drive is in there, directly in the way. But because I am reinstalling them, I can remove them. So that's where these things here come in. Jesus, that's heavy. With new top mounts as well. So this should actually just bolt right into the car, I think.
Hopefully.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it does.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, this will just bolt right in. And then I'll ask my mate Chris actually on how to fit these, because I've never fitted some before, and they're like adjustable, and I really don't know what I'm doing when it comes to these.
Okay.
But it means that I can remove those, get straight into the drive, so that they take half the time. And then that will be the front end done. We can actually lower the car down.
Yeah.
Then all I have to do is finish plumbing up, wiring in the interior, fit the rear coilovers, and hopefully we're good to go. Hopefully.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'll get stuck in here and that'll do.
Are you putting Coke into a Pepsi bottle?
Perhaps.
What the fuck I'm thinking about?
Might commit sacrilege later, IDK.
Go on, do it. Go on, don't spill any. If you spill any in your dad's shed, he's gonna go buck mad.
Yeah, he will.
Oh. Don't spill it! Don't spill it! This should be like the intro part of the video. The clickbaity bit, just me shouting, don't spill it! Look at him. Look at him even covering the Coke logo.
You will never know.
What brand is that you're pouring into that other unbranded thing?
Cola.
Cola, Nuka-Cola. Let it never be said there's not top-notch entertainment on this channel.
Oh no.
Oh no! He's only gonna done it!
What?
No! Black lid!
So it turns out, whilst it would have been a great idea to be able to do the drives without a shock in, it puts the hub at a total angle, and without getting somebody to hold it at the right angle for me, it's going to make the drive a total pain to put in, so I suppose I'll just fit the coilover now and be done with it. We're recording?
Yeah.
So that is that absolute pain of a job done. I hate doing drives. They are the one part of an entire Mark II build that I hate doing more than anything else. But thank God that's done. So now, coilovers are in. The exciting part is we let it down onto the ground and see what the height is at the front. What's the guess? Is it going to be too low?
Yeah, probably.
You think it's going to scrape?
Yeah.
I think it'll be too low. I've never done this before, so I don't know. But let's find out.
Nice.
Well, here goes. It's time to let her down.
Yeah, that's good height there.
Yeah, that's her. This seems low. This seems very low. Holy shit. Whoa. Holy shit. That is low. Okay, well we gotta see if the wheels turn fully.
Start her up there.
I don't know why I put it on the heat. That seems okay, does it?
It does.
Ah! And here, no bad noises when I turn it. That's the noise is gone.
That's always good.
We did it!
Yeah.
We lowered it! At the front.
Good.
So this is where we are at the minute. I had to make a homemade mass airflow sensor setup from the original Mark III pipe. I cut it up to suit, and then thankfully the Mark III pipe fits the Mark II one just about. It's squeezed on there, it might not work, I'm not sure, but who knows. Expansion bottle, I've modified the bracket so that it will sit in the factory place above the intercooler. Before I had the cable tied around the washer bottle and it looked terrible. So that looks a bit more factory. What I have left to do This intake pipe here, I need to fit to the actuator at the back of the turbo. I need to secure that inlet thing a bit better at the bottom. I need to run a vacuum hose from the ECU to the intake, which is going to involve drilling a hole in here and fitting a bicycle valve that my friend Brian gave me last night. So then there's that mess inside. So yeah, let's get stuck in. So we've done nearly everything in the bay, but there's one thing left. There's a vacuum line goes from the ECU, the brain, to this either inlet or outlet. I can't remember which it is. But anyway, it takes a feed from there, which, as this has some kind of weird homemade setup on it, it doesn't have a nipple for me to put a vacuum line on. So we have to make our own. And another big thanks to Brian for helping us out with this one. And him and his bicycle background had the genius idea that a bicycle tire valve could actually be used to create a vacuum line. So this is probably a homemade tip. I doubt many internet people have heard of this one before, because I certainly hadn't. So to do this, our plan is to drill into the manifold, put this up in, tighten it on, vacuum hose onto there, and our ECU gets a reading. The only thing is, because of the homemade setup on it, I really don't want to take it off, which would be the safest way to do it, because the metal filings from the drill could get sucked into the engine. And so rather geniusly, we've all come up with the idea, the combined ideas, shall I say, of stuffing a rag into the inlet to stop any filings getting in. And as I drill, Connor here is going to hold the vacuum cleaner against it, so any metal filings should get sucked in. This may not work, but let's see what happens. Right, yep. That should be us. Perfect. Which then gives me a vacuum line. What else should I put? Some sealant or something on that? But there's a rubber bung at the end of it, so
Okay, so it should seal it.
it should be okay. Now all we need to do, you can just about see the vacuum valve there on the end of the ECU. Just need to run a hose from it to here. Maybe should spit on it.
Ha.
Down into our ECU in the corner here. Okay, so I didn't bother filming plugging the fuse box all in because it's literally just plugging plugs in, and to be honest, it required a lot of thought deciphering what I was keeping Mark II plug wise and what I was keeping Mark III plug wise. So I just thought it best to just get stuck in and get on with it. But I think we are ready to now put power to the lot. Stick on a battery. I've plugged in some switches and I plugged in the clocks so I can see if there's any life, basically. Test everything, make sure it all works. So yeah, Connor's coming up now with a fire extinguisher just in case, but it's finally time to see what happens. Okay, so I'm just going to double check the ignition is off.
Right.
For this first touch of power.
Just a touch.
Like generally, this is always the scary part because you just don't know what's going to happen now.
Yeah.
The starter could be bad and it could instantly try and start. It could be any number of things. But any last words?
Good luck.
Thanks.
Yeah, not too bad.
Nothing's happened yet. That power lead could be going to absolutely nothing though, for all I know. So, let's try, before we put ignition on, let's try something that doesn't require any. Let's go for lights.
I don't know if they even work. Yeah, but do you have anything at the front?
Nope.
No lights.
Okay.
This is a great start.
And that, what did you just put on side lights?
Yeah, you should get some form of lights. I've got nothing anywhere.
No.
Right, this isn't a good start. So we've at least got that.
Well,
Alright, so come over here then and I'll see if I have any ignition.
okay.
Nothing on the dash either. I have no life at all. Right. Why is that? Why have I got no life? Ignition off again, what if I...
That's fair enough.
Wait, no, that is the Mark II. That's the Mark II power fuse power line there.
So maybe you need the Mark III one.
No, because that's the Mark III one.
Oh, okay.
So both Mark II and Mark III are going to the power. Oh,
Yeah, something happening there.
something happened there.
Right, let's try that then.
This might be it now. I think the loop was looping at the wrong place.
The loop, brother.
Because there's one that loops for some reason.
Try the lights.
Do we have lights?
No.
I have lights on the dash though.
I'm good. You've no side lights up here. Try them and look at the back.
Yeah, I have dash lights. I'm no longer flickering like they used to be.
Yeah, you got rear lights as well, just not your headlights.
Right, so my front loom could be iffy, that's totally fair.
Right.
Right, so let's try ignition then.
Okay. Right.
Here we go.
You gonna try it?
I don't know. Right, I'm gonna try all the different things.
Right.
So with ignition on, right, okay? So I have my wiper.
Find the lead that does the wipers.
Legit. It's just made sense to set them all up here, by the way. Right, do I have indicators? No indicators, but I think that's a lightning loom problem.
Probably.
Ah, because that relay's working. Do it.
You've
The
got
back
that.
light's working. The backs are working.
Yeah.
So I reckon I have an issue at the front.
Well, let's have a look.
Lightning loom.
Yeah, there's nothing on the front.
Yeah, that could just be a plug though.
Right.
Right. A handbrake light here. Let's see, it's on the dash.
So the handbrake's on.
So the handbrake is on, so that's working, but it can that also doubles as brake fluid light, which I have plugged in for the first time.
All right, but you know you've got brake fluid in there anyway, haven't you?
Right, so that has gone off.
Right.
Good. That's working. Right, wipers. Let's try wipers. Wiper no wiping. Here we go.
Nice.
Do I have washers?
Yeah, I'd say so. If you had any fluid in there,
There's no fluid.
you'd probably have washers.
But it's working. Okay. Actually, yeah, it wouldn't go anywhere either because the bucket's not on. Here, this is going good so far.
Right, yeah.
So all that's not working at the minute is the front lights, really.
Yeah.
It's possible I have a Mark III plug in the lights and I shouldn't have for the front.
That could be it.
In fact, I'm near certain I do, now that I think about it.
Yeah.
I plugged it in and I don't think I should have. I should have put the Mark II one in, so that should be an easy fix. But anyway, right, we're going to do some investigating here before I jump the gun and try and start it, okay?
Right.
So, what we need to know is, are some solenoids getting power?
How do we do that?
With the best tool of all, the circuit tester.
Right.
Now, what you do here is connect this to an earth. In the engine bay, it's usually best to just go straight to the battery. And then this little prong here,
Prong some stuff with it.
prong some stuff with it. And if this lights up, then you know it's getting power.
Lovely.
So, what I need to know is when I put the ignition on, does that little solenoid up here for the fuel cutoff get power?
Right.
Because if I don't get power there, the car won't start.
Right.
So it'll turn over for days but will not start. So it's that little solenoid in there. So we're going to connect to our earth. Anywhere really will do. I will check it against the battery. And you can see it's lit up.
Yep.
So I have the ignition on, but I don't have power getting to my solenoid.
And what's the cure for that?
The cure for that's not ideal. But to be fair, it's how I did it before. I'm gonna have to put a switched live to that, which I had ran before. It's not the most ideal way to do it, but I think it's to do with the fact it's a TDI conversion. But how about we see if it'll actually turn over?
Okay,
It won't start anyway, so this would actually be a good way to bleed it if we wanted.
Yeah.
So, actually no, it won't be, because it won't be getting diesel.
No.
Never mind. But this is good. This is all likely down to just plugs in the wrong place and stuff.
Yeah.
We ready?
Ready?
Please do something. Okay.
Let's turn over.
So in theory now, I need to switch live. So we'll do some diagnosing here. Well, the diagnosing is obvious, but we'll find what now has power, and then we'll put a wire to it, and then we'll find out what has power now. I have the ignition on.
Right.
We'll find out what has power now. Then we'll turn the ignition off, see if there's still power, and if there is, we can use, or if there isn't, then we can use that as our switch live. So let's see. Getting power. Actually, no, it has to be, because that's running through Mark 3 wiring to that there. So that has power, that doesn't. So we'll plug that in. If I turn the ignition off and that goes away, we can use that.
Hang on, it's falling out. I'm just gonna hold it.
Okay. So ignition off. No power. Ignition on. Power.
Yeah.
So we can use that. So thankfully, because I had this problem before, I have a pre-made wire.
Nice. Sensible.
Sensible. And it even has a thing on it. I'm trusting my reliability on this.
Nice.
So in theory now, I put power to that, which means that is still earthed.
Yeah.
If I put the ignition on, bada bing,
Yeah, there's a click there.
some noises. Don't know what that noise was. But that is now getting power.
Yeah, that's lit.
That is lit, my dude.
Lit.
So, we'll do the sensible thing and crack an injector, which will make sure she's getting diesel and also bleed her at the same time. So turn the ignition off whilst I find the 17 spanner somewhere, which is here.
Very
It's where I
convenient.
knew that.
Very, very convenient.
Now, for bleeding your system,
Yeah, what do we do?
what you want to do is take your 17 for
Yeah.
your injector, and you're going to crack the tallest injector here.
Is that tallest for a reason?
Yeah, that has like a sensor and all in it. It's a fancy injector.
Alright.
Quite what it does, I don't know, but this will scout diesel everywhere, so my nice clean engine bay will be ruined.
Cool.
But kinda is what it is. Now, in theory, I should turn the key. This should send diesel up through that. And she should start.
Yes.
We ready?
I'll tell you when you get diesel.
Oh, I can see.
Or you can see it, okay.
Yeah. Now, the problem is... Although, I could probably crack all of the injectors at the minute.
Yeah.
So that obviously the more you do, the quicker it bleed. But then you have to tighten all of them again.
Well, yeah.
Notice that last one isn't cracking anything. But why is she not starting? The only other thing could be that the ECU isn't getting power.
And what would that do? Does the ECU cut it off in any way on this?
Could be a mobilizer.
Has it got one?
Well, remember that key thing under the dash I showed you?
Oh, yeah.
That might be an issue right now. It has to be that.
Right.
So now what I need to do.
A mess.
What?
Spaghetti.
It is. It's a mess, but because I took it out,
You know it.
I recognize the mess.
Yeah.
Like if you picked out a random wire, I couldn't tell you what it is.
Aye,
but
but-
seeing the cluster and looking where it goes, I know what it does. So this little brown wire all the way up here
Yeah, I can see him.
should really be further down. I don't know whether this is an earlier loom or a later loom he's given me. It could be either. But what's happened is that plug has changed shape.
Whoa.
So I wasn't able to see straight away that that's what it was. So that is the feed to the ECU to tell the ECU that the immobilizer is okay.
Right.
And then we need to give the ECU power, because obviously it's actually telling nothing to work. All that is happening right now is basic mechanical stuff.
Yeah.
The starter is getting power.
Yeah, because it's
And
not.
because it's getting power and that solenoid is getting power, everything is happening, but it just won't fire because
There's no thinking involved.
it thinks it's being stolen.
Yeah.
What's happening right now?
This car's probably used to it.
With this car's history, who knows? But that is the simplest way I can describe what's happening right now. The car thinks it's being stolen, so it won't start. And the annoying thing is, that would be really useful if this was a Mark III, but because I'm bypassing that, it could still be stolen really easily. So now, I'll take this. This is the most involved video part of the whole thing.
Yep.
It hasn't just been a time lapse, these have been actually watching me in real time
Figuring this
discovering how
out.
to fix this.
Yeah.
So if our ECU was getting power right now, it would say, yes, mobilizer's fine. Although it could be getting power, actually.
Do you want to try it and see?
If I was to start it now, it started.
Wants to go, doesn't it?
ECU is working. ECU
Okay.
must be getting power then, because that's tried to start there. So if we bleed this ejector again, because maybe it's not bled fully, because it wasn't getting a feed of diesel.
Big feed of diesel.
Shut up. Trying to make good entertainment here.
That is good entertainment.
Actually, yeah, yours is the entertainment, mine's just facts. So, we will run. Well, here's the thing, see when I built this car 3 years ago, I didn't know any of this. I didn't even know how to bleed a diesel car, like, never mind ECUs and all that.
Yeah.
So it's definitely progress that I'm sitting here able to try and diagnose.
Yeah. There you go.
Yes! Yes!
Nice.
We did it!
Yeah, we do. Okay, that's a bit stiff, but
Throttle pot's the problem.
right.
I haven't got the spring back on.
Oh, okay. So as soon as you put revs on, it stays on.
Yeah, it stays on. That was. I was like, nope, off. Here, this car can drive out of here.
I hope so.
Well, yeah. Isn't this amazing though? Like
Well,
that's going from no power to the fuse box whatsoever, nothing happening, to starting and running.
Yes.
I've actually got goosebumps. I haven't done a full weekend of flat out at it and getting to that and watching it fire up.
That's good.
You could nearly cry, like.
That's good going. And it's covered in diesel.
And that's all that cleaning I did
None.
for nothing.
It's not like diesel's even a good cleaner like petrol is.
Exactly, like all that's gonna do is just stain. Oh, I'm actually quivering a little bit. Holy shit, I did that. I made this run. I didn't have to ring somebody for assistance or help or anything. I figured it all out myself. I tell you, I've actually got a buzz on. Right?
Buzzing, boy.
I've got a buzz on. I can't believe it.
Buzzing for TDI.
I'm shaking. Like, I'm trying to get this in and my hands are shaking because I'm just like, holy shit, I did it. I did it. I'm hoping that, like, people will appreciate it on our channel that we 90% of the time actually have no idea what we're doing.
Yeah, I'm sure that is pretty obvious.
Anyone who's watched our Fintail videos. It's like when the doll you've asked out a couple of times, oh, that always said no, finally says yes, and you're like, what do I do?
She's covered in diesel.
She's covered in diesel, what do I do?
Right, that's it. Get out of my dash shed.
I'm a bit emotional, like, I'm not lying. Okay, so after far too much time faffing about organising different things I wanted to work, such as getting the temperature sensor to work with the Mark III setup and all, whilst it is plug and play, it's not quite as simple as that because some wires go into different places and so on. So after a bit of time sorting all that out, it's now finally time to put the dash into place. And once the dash is in place, an hour, not even an hour, less than an hour, we'll have it all set up. Then coolant in, bleed, see what the crack is. So after the total faff that was reassembling the interior, still isn't fully done yet, but I don't really care. I just want to get it out of the shed, just to say I've got it out of the shed. We're gonna put the coolant in and bleed the system as well. I'm hoping the clutch is working properly. That's why we have moved the camper. So let's hope nothing gets hit. Wish me luck.
Good luck. Good luck. You okay there?
You okay?
Yeah.
I keep not holding it on for long enough. First gear. Check off. We did it! So, it is currently about 8 o'clock on the last day. She is out of the shed. The test drive is done. It's time to go home.
Ahead of schedule.
Ahead of schedule. Why? What was the schedule?
I think you said probably about 10 o'clock. So we're at least 2 hours ahead.
2 hours ahead. That's good going. It's time to tell my parents I'm coming home. They haven't heard from me in about 3 days. But, yeah, so we'll get her home. Hopefully she gets home and we'll catch up then.
Lovely stuff. Not my words. The words of Shakin' Stevens.
So after the longest weekend I think I've ever had, a lot of work, engine in and out, power steering conversion that didn't happen, full loom conversion, lowered, we have the 427 van. So I've done a couple of days of test driving just to make sure everything's okay. It's not. But they're only minor things that we'll sort. Added some fog lights just to give it a bit more of a racy retro look. But other than that, we are finished. If you've made it this far, congratulations, because that's probably been just as much work as it actually was building the damn thing in the first place. What, have we got nature taking place, have we?
Yeah, we got a heron over there shouting.
Oh, tell them to shut up, we're trying to record. You join us here, in case you hadn't noticed, not at home.
It's better than Country File.
That's the thing, we could do our show as like a nature programme as well, talking about different sites within our beautiful county of Armagh.
Yeah.
This is still County Armagh.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's the other river that separates this and Tyrone.
Okay, so we're currently in Armagh.
Yeah.
County Armagh.
Yeah.
You join us here in County Armagh at a place called Mahery, which is just lovely, really. Like, it just seemed like the perfect place, apart from this shitty road. We'll probably have to cut to a shot of me trying to get over that bloody road later on. But yes, lovely site full of nature, wildlife, and is currently filled with the clattery sound of 1.9 TDI.
Nice.
Nature.
Very nice.
So, what have we actually done in this video? Well, you've either just watched it or you just skipped to the end. Some people do that, you know, they do watch a bit and just skip to the end, see if we actually did it.
Yeah.
So if you did skip to the end, what you're looking at is now a Mk2 Golf 1.9 TDI. Originally this would have been a 1.6 turbo diesel, which blew up on us in England, and unfortunately, yeah, that was not a good time. But we made it home with the AA, and then I swapped in a TDI from a Mark III. However, it never quite ran properly. In fact, it was actually slower than it was in the first place, and we couldn't overtake anyone at all. But now, having spent this weekend finding out where everything goes, changing the vacuum lines, making sure the ECU actually talks to the rest of everything going on, we finally have a Mark II Golf that is able to get out of its own shadow. That made sense in my head. I don't think it makes sense in practice.
I don't think that's possible.
I don't think that's possible.
I think you're telling lies.
So let's pop the bonnet and look at the hard work that we did this weekend. So this is the end result of a lot of hard work. This is our engine bay, and I was about to say with no leaks, but
Oh.
that is some fresh oil. Where's that coming out of? That's coming out of that there.
Breathy boy.
Breathy boy. Maybe we need to replace the seal on that. Oh, and there's some oil there too.
Okay.
Maybe that's blowing out from that. It's getting onto there.
No.
No? Why would you think that's coming out of?
Here.
Is it?
Well, that oil there's coming from there anyway.
It
So that
is,
just
isn't it?
Needs sealed up somehow.
That needs tightened better, yeah.
But over here, ooh, that's anyone's guess.
Let it never be said that this isn't like true to life here. We kept all these wee leaks in.
Now this actually might be coming out of this because there's a lot of it around here as well, so.
Aye, it looks like it's skating out of that onto that.
Yeah, so you could be okay.
Which is very annoying because I've cleaned this whole bay and painted it, and now it's going to be covered in dirt again. Oh, look at the size of them bios.
Yes, big birds, maybe even swans.
Big birds. Like Sesame Street, like?
Yeah, that's Big Bird.
That's Big Bird there. Big Bird way home. Anyway, where were we going with this? Yes, so this is our engine bay. Intercooler setup from a Skoda Octavia. Don't ask. Mounted in a similar sort of place as a Mark II GTD. You would have had it, but not quite the same. What else has changed here? Basically, the original box is still there, which is a blessing and a curse. It means a lot less work. Didn't have to swap in a hydraulic clutch and all of that, but it does mean that your gear ratios are a little bit shorter, which means you don't have as much top speed. But it's easier, so I don't really care. Here we have the TDI itself. Now this takes its feed from the brain, which is hiding behind the ECU for reasons. And it's a different system to what a Mark II would have. It would have a mechanical pump, which is all done without electronics.
Did you just say the brain is hiding behind the ECU?
No, it says behind the intercooler.
He said ECU.
Did I say ECU? Bollocks. But anyway, so over here we have our homemade mass airflow setup. Again, big thanks to Brian for helping us with this. What this is a Mark III setup, cut up, and this shoved in the middle, because the Mark II setup doesn't have a housing for this. So this is put in between the two, which is plugged in here, gives its signal to the brain, which is why we now have speed. Whilst we did all that, we replaced all of these vacuum lines and made sure they're all going to the right places, which they are. And that's basically it.
Yeah, lowered it as well.
Yes, we lowered it as well using FK Racing coilovers, which are actually quite comfortable, I must say. However, it turns out we may have forgotten a top mount part at the back, so there's a little bit of a clickety-clack, blankety-blank, clickety-clack, but whatever, we'll get that sorted. Other than that, it's kind of depressing when you can sum up an hour's, like a huge video, lots of time, into about 5 minutes of this is what we did.
Sometimes that's the way it is.
It do be like that sometimes. But yes, so that is the crux of what we have done. A lot of people said we probably couldn't do it in that short space of time, and oh my god, look at that. There, that was well mounted. A lot of people said we couldn't do it in the time frame. Well, that I couldn't do it in the time frame, but to those people, go and get a bowl and some of those like spaghetti shaped letters and then arrange them into what you said and eat them. That was a partridge. I think I butchered that partridge quote, but there you go. We did it in the end up, and to be honest, it is one of the greatest things we've ever done. Despite the fact that it's the same engine, it may as well be a new engine because the difference is night and day. Unfortunately, we didn't get to do the timer belt and water pump because my skills are just not quite there yet. And that's one of those things I'm quite scared to do, although it's probably simple, but I haven't learned yet. But we didn't do that, and we didn't do the power steering, but the amount that we did do, I think it makes up for it because this was a huge undertaking. But so worth it.
Cool.
Goddamn birds. They just wanted to be in the shot, didn't they? But yeah, whilst it may have been an awful lot of work in a short space of time, it wasn't all just work, you know. Building a project car is as much about the people that you build it with at the same time. And I'd like to big thanks to Connor and to Chris behind the camera. I couldn't have done this without you guys because I needed the extra pair of hands at times. And Connor did tell me, what the hell are you doing it that way for? Do it this way instead, which worked.
Makes it sound like I know a lot more about it than I do, but yeah.
Sometimes it just takes a fresh pair of eyes when you've been working on a project for 3 days straight, or in this instance more than 3 days because it took longer than we wanted. But sometimes when you're balls deep in a project, you do just need a fresh pair of eyes to come over and look at it and say, oh, you're doing that wrong. I'd like to also give a big thanks to Brian again, who I've thanked a lot during this, but really he was a big deal with this. If it wasn't for him getting stuff sorted, we wouldn't be doing this. So big thanks to him. Be sure to check out Brian's Bike Shack on all forms of socials. Yeah, so whilst this may be like a car, every time I hop into this now, this is going to be that weekend that we spent in the shed, having showered in 3 days, living in a camper van with my best mates, building a car, because why not? And that's the type of thing you only get with a project car. Yeah, other people have other hobbies that they do with their friends, but that there's something unique about this type of thing. So basically go and buy a project car with your mates and build it because it's class. Thank you very much for watching if you've made it this far. I don't think I'd have made it this far. This has been our biggest episode yet by a long stretch, but at the same time it was a lot of work in a short space of time. So yeah, we could have done it in multiple parts, but knowing us, we'd do the one half and then just not get around to doing the second half. So it just made sense to do it as one big video. But yeah, be sure to check out my Instagram, Tom Patterson. Check out Connor's Instagram.
Fuse Corporation.
Check out the birds in the sky. And then this is the problem. This is the problem with filming in nature. There's nature.
It's quite nice though.
Yeah, it's a vibe.
We reckon they're whipper swans. No, we don't reckon they're whippers. Huh? Oh, they're mutes.
The mute swans. Well, they don't bloody seem it.
Yeah, they make a lot of
loud
noise
enough.
there for mute swans. Oh,
Be sure.
no,
to check
surely
out. All right.
Surely it's like their like lungs when they're. Yeah, is that not their lungs as well? Maybe it is their wings.
Lungs.
Yeah. Anyway, check us out on everything and bye.
Yeah. Also, be sure to check out the bird expert behind the camera here, whose voice you probably didn't pick up, serving Connor some facts, telling him he's dumb. At Chrissy Ewans on Instagram, and that's basically it. Please subscribe if you haven't already. This has been a very big episode, so if you like this longer format,
let us know.
Let us know, and I'll just decide to do something else really stupid on my car in a short space of time. If you prefer the shorter episodes, then
We'll do some of them as well.
there'll be a lot of them. So yeah, thanks very much, and we'll see you in the next one. Good luck.
Good luck.